Welcome to I Caught It on Audio. This is Ride or Die episode 14. Toadies, part 1.
Hello and welcome to I Caught It on Audio. Today we are continuing our Ride or Die series where we pick a band and do a deep dive into their complete discography. This time around we have chosen the 90s one-hit wonder Toadies. They are probably best known for their hit Possum Kingdom, which appeared on their first album Rubberneck. Recently, Jamie found their album Heretics, and after a short discussion, it was decided that we should probably find out if any of us are ride or die for the Toadies. Jamie, why don't you start and tell us how you first got into Toadies?
I was hearing them on the radio and liking Possum Kingdom, and then it was later listening to the whole album that I really started to enjoy the whole album.
Is this an album that you bought? I don't remember if you had it also.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for me it was definitely Possum Kingdom. I absolutely love the song. Probably put the Rubberneck album on my BMG, 39-cent albums list, and got it in the mail and listened to it like crazy because it was surprisingly good. And Dan, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember back in like 95 or so hearing Possum Kingdom on the radio. And I wasn't sure what to make of it at first. I mean, it's a great song, but it's a very strange song. You're spending a lot of time wondering if it's about vampires or
it's definitely
what's
about
going
vampires.
on.
Mm-hmm.
and it's back in my being raised as a good Christian boy days. I didn't know how I feel about Jesus being used so often in the song. That was my initial reaction, but that song really grew on me. But I wasn't completely sold on the band because there were a lot of great singles in those days that appealed. But when I heard Away on the radio, I believe that was a single.
It was.
That's how I remember hearing it first. Anyway, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. But I didn't expect to love every song on the album, on Rubberneck, which I suppose that why don't ready to dive into Rubberneck?
Let's get into
one that
it.
we all knew before this last month or two, anyway.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this one was released in August of '94. It's not technically their first album. They've got a few EPs that came out beforehand, but most of the stuff that's on there shows up later, so I didn't bother putting any of that on the playlist. It had 5 singles somehow. I had no idea that many of these songs were on the radio. I've got Mr. Love, Possum Kingdom, Away. Tyler somehow made it on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, but strange. And then Backslider even made it on the radio. I kind of interrupted you there, Dan, but what are your thoughts on this album in particular?
No, you're right. It's strange that they had that many singles. I think it's because, as I was reading up a little bit, Wikipedia level research, I do my homework.
That's what we do here at 64 Tacos.
Yeah. The album was out for the better part of a year before Possum Kingdom kind of got going, and I would imagine the Mr. Love single was a big nothing, which is why it almost restarted with Possum Kingdom. And I also noticed that Backslider was in Black Sheep, the Chris Farley, David Spade.
Oh, interesting.
Which I didn't. I've seen the movie, but I don't know. I didn't connect the two at any point. So maybe that got bumped as a single because of that. But Tyler, I never once heard on the radio. I don't.
Yeah. I think we were in a little bit too conservative a demographic, maybe for that.
Maybe. Possum Kingdom isn't any less, creepy.
No, that's true.
Or Away for that matter. The thing that's so great about the Toadies is it's like another like kid telling you scary stories,
Right.
I love it, and it's kind of tongue in cheek at the same time, But this album is fantastic. I knew that I loved Possum Kingdom in Away from the radio. I thought the rest of the album was okay, but I didn't really examine it super close, at the time. But as the years went on, I just realized that I love pretty much every song on this album. I don't think there's a single weak song.
Yeah,
Um,
I've got every song is thumbs up, up on this album.
Yep.
And
And
there was no hesitation either.
Even the first, Mexican Hairless is just an instrumental, like super, aggressive, quick, like grunge alt rock song. It's that doesn't have any lyrics, but I'm like, I love it. It just sets the tone for the album. It's like super aggressive, and yeah, I have no complaints. I love the sort of like vaguely religious, like storytelling, like on Backslider and and I burn and I come from the water. I love when they're furious, like on Happy Face, like it's just so angry. And like Tyler is like a super creepy stalker song disguised as a love song that's kind of like, that was my first like, oh, there's other great songs on this album, but all of it's great. What was your take on it, Jamie, after you actually bought the album, started listening to it?
So I don't remember when it became, like I put this album on and listened to it all the way through. But at some point it was one of those albums that was in my vehicle on just repeat forever. Yeah, I feel the same. I love every song on here. And I don't know, I guess I never even thought that there was more Toadies out there. This was just so perfect.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There didn't need to be more Toadies because this was, like you said, honey, it's a perfect album. And had this been all there ever was, that would have been perfectly fine.
It was so surprisingly perfect. Like you just didn't expect it, because Possum Kingdom, I mean, that's the song that everybody knows. I don't know that other people know Away or the other singles off the first album. And I'm pretty sure almost nobody pays attention to anything that came after, sort of in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
But Possum Kingdom it sounds like a novelty song almost,
Right.
Like, it does not promise, oh yeah, this is a band that has a real future. And maybe that's why it took so long to get going. But part of the reason that I think they went missing, and if we're thinking about moving on to the second album, just as a sort of lead into that, there was a whole lot of chaos happening. There were like record company mergers, bands getting dropped, left and right. They almost got dropped, if not for a bit of luck. And the album that they wanted to put out back in like 98 or so got rejected by the label. All this stuff, kind of happened, and it means that their next album didn't come out for 7 years after their first album, and 6 years after the first album hit it big with Possum Kingdom. So I remember at this time being like, there's got to be more good Rubberneck, more good Toadies. More good Rubberneck would be fine too. I'd take a side 2 of Rubberneck.
Well, there actually is like 5 bonus tracks I was just reading that you could download somehow.
Are those songs that are from like previous albums and later albums at all, or I didn't notice that at all?
Let's see. 20th anniversary bonus tracks: Running with Dad, Stop It, Rockfish, Possum Kingdom Live, and Tyler Live. So really three
new tracks.
Songs.
But those 3 are not, I believe, songs that appear on later albums. Maybe they appeared on earlier stuff. I don't know, but
not that I can recall.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to look. I'll have to see if I can find those for part 2 of this of our series.
If they'll put out another album. But I remember looking into it, I don't know, around 2000, and being like, oh, there's still not another Toadies album. And then I remember, just tracking it down again, like in like 2004 or 5, and hearing that Hell Below, Stars Above had come out, but there were sort of like mixed responses, and I also knew that they had like lineup changes that began at that point, and I was like, sounds like they just imploded. Nobody really loved the second album anyway. Shoot, and in my mind, until you brought up Toadies Ride or Die, that's where it ended. It was
right,
surprising success first album, chaos, and a disappointing second album. Band breaks up. That's the end of it. And so when you suggested it and put up the playlist, I was like, oh, there's 4 albums. And then I was like, oh, there's like 7 albums.
Right. There's 4 albums plus a part 2.
Yeah, completely off my radar for like 15 years. I'm awfully glad that you guys brought it up because I'll just, not to give it away, but man, I really liked Hell Below Stars Above. If you guys are ready to move on to that one.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, well, Dave, why don't you give your impressions on it first?
This album doesn't feel like it was 7 years later. It feels like they picked up right where they left off with just this super fast guitars and but then also, I mean, let's see, we do have some more melodic stuff. Jamie and I were briefly talking about this, but like Jigsaw Girl is more melodic, and there's a few other melodic things, but man, it is a really good album also. I don't know that it's quite as good as Rubberneck, but you could convince me that this is the one that I should put in my car CD player instead of, alongside Rubberneck. I really enjoyed it. I think I got 8 out of the 12 songs that I thumbs up, which is quite a few for an album I just heard of 2 months ago. So what did you think of this one, honey?
Well, I think that's the thing. I don't know it well enough yet. I didn't listen to Rubberneck all the way through one time and was like, oh, this is great.
Right.
So I have to sit with it a little bit. And but I did really like it. And I think my favorite song on it is Jigsaw Girl. I know that you don't even have it thumbed up, I see. But so the way this came about was so now having to switch over to like playlists because I got a new car 2 years ago, and new cars don't have CD players anymore. They have, you plug your phone in and you just play your playlist. So that was a change for me. But I do like that you can, you put on your playlist and then it doesn't just end, it'll play more songs that are like that. So in the car one day with Jack, and the Heretics album rendition of Tyler comes on, and I saw the title and the band on my little heads up display, but then it was this like toned down acoustic, and I felt like Jenna in the grocery store looking at fruit snacks. I was like, what? And Jack was confused, and
our listeners will be confused by that analogy as well.
That's okay, because maybe Jenna will listen and then she'll be the person that gets it. But
it's a small audience, but I think we can get her.
So so I was just super intrigued by it, and I had to check a couple times. Yes, this is the Toadies. It's not like somebody covering. And so then I listened to that whole Heretics album, and Jigsaw Girl was one of the tracks that they redid on that album. And so I came into it with that knowledge, I think. I don't know which one I like better, which style I like better, but I do like that song. And I don't know what it says about me that I like, songs about abduction and
cowering in your bedroom as a man who just broke in, around in your kitchen,
an amateur Frankenstein.
I don't know, but I love it.
they make these macabre ghost stories so enjoyable. It's like their superpower.
Yes.
Yeah, this I love. I unequivocally love this album. I thumbs up every song.
Did you?
I think if I had heard this before Rubberneck, I might like it. They might flip places. Mm-hmm. There's so much history with Rubberneck. I don't know that they'll ever be able to produce an album that I like more than that. I don't know if that would even be possible. It's just the time when I heard it and how ingrained in my life it is. But I think it's a little more varied, and it does different things. And my only real complaint about it compared to Rubberneck is that there is a guitar player switch. What's his name? Daryl Herbert.
Yep.
I loved his really sort of signature, like distortion feedback using the whammy bar, like
yes.
particularly in a way. He does all these crazy sounds. I love that, and that is missing. I think the new guitar player's name was Clark Vogler, and I think he's basically the guitar player from here on out. And he's very good. I don't have a big problem with him or anything. Like I think he's good. It's just there's a little bit of secret sauce that that guitar work added to Rubberneck. That said, this album has pretty songs. I mean, if you can call Jigsaw Girl a pretty song, because it's so dark, but it has that. Pressed Into the Sky is the first, I think, sincere song I've heard from the Toadies.
Yeah.
You know, it's not tongue in cheek. It's not, winking. It's not sardonic. It just feels, like sincere emotion. And it's really, really good. There's a little more like classic rock and gospel feel, like particularly in the second half of Hell Below, Stars Above, which I never thought I would quite hear. Vocal harmonies,
Yeah, well, you've got some Janis Joplin throwbacks in here too. I mean, not that any of these are her songs, but the vocals just,
yeah. And his vocals are, I mean, I think he's really underrated as a vocalist.
I agree.
Absolutely.
He's not like a Chris Cornell or a Steven Tyler who's going to hit every note
till the next album. But he's theatrical at times, and he's a great screamer. Like in Plane Crash, when I started up Plane Crash, the first new Toady song I've heard forever. 7 seconds in, when he screams, I'm like, "Yup, all right, let's go. This is great." So yeah, there's so many things that I think this is more varied, and it incorporates more influences. This was the first album that wasn't. This is probably because of the reason why it feels that way. These were collaborative songs, not mostly written by what's his name, Vader Todd Lewis, the lead singer. The first album is mostly him as far as songwriting, and this is much more collaborative. It seems like Dollskin's another standout. I mean, I love them all. I can't, and they do this great thing. Heel is a great example of a song where they just take a word and just shout it, and it shouldn't work. Like that shouldn't be enough to make the song great, but
it is. It's amazing. Yeah. So good.
Yeah, I also, and this is not the last time it'll come up, but I love the way he says the word "pretty," which pops up over several albums. I don't know. I'm totally sold on this album. I love it. I have no complaints at all about this. For you, Jamie, I think it's. I understand it'll have to grow on you, and I very often feel that way with new music that in this Ride or Die series. This one grew on me. I kind of liked it the first time, and I loved it the second time through the album, and I thoroughly enjoyed it every time thereafter. This really worked for me. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. There's no doubt about it.
I love how they are. I don't know if it's experimenting, but they're putting in different genres and types of music and playing with the vocals, and it's like everything's on the table, and I just really enjoy it.
Yeah, and there's unconventional choices, like they ease you in, right? Because the first like 3 songs or so they kind of feel like old Toadies, like Rubberneck era Toadies. But like Motivational is a song with a really strange dissonant guitar riff. And then like the vocals on the chorus are very weird. And it almost shouldn't work, but they sort of like pull off it. Like they manage to sound different, and like they're trying new things, which often leads to bands kind of sounding uninspired. But I really don't feel that way on this album. I think they like I said, like a dozen times already, it's great. I loved it.
I agree.
All right. So that was 2001. And then I think the band like officially broke up.
Yeah. The bass player decided to leave. Yeah. This album was not a success. No. Financially. And so at the tail end of their tour, she decided to leave. And then Lewis decided, well, she's a founding member. Let's just walk away. Right. I think he was quoted as saying, so I thought, nah, fuck it. Like we're done, And that was that for, another 5 or 6 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
Because we're in 2008 and No Deliverance comes out. We've got a new bassist. Were there any other band member changes?
I think everything else is the same.
And everybody else was the same. This one.
Well, do we have a new bassist, or does just Todd Lewis cover the bass? I'm trying to remember now.
Mark Hughes. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Maybe that was for touring. I've got No Deliverance.
He may have been a touring.
I've got Lewis as bass, at least on the record.
Yeah. Nope,
but I'm sure they needed someone to tour, right? So
right.
Yeah.
So he probably toured with them, and then Lewis recorded the bass parts.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 2 singles on this one. We've got No Deliverance and Song I Hate. Dan, why don't you start on this one?
So I was reading a little bit on the wiki about the Toadies, and during the interim period between Hell Below, Stars Above and this one, Lewis, the lead singer, he joined up with a guy from Reverend Horton Heat, and they had a band, and they were all in on that. And I think he decided to try to get the band back together because he said that he was writing songs that sounded like Toadies, and that's how I feel about this album. It sounds closer to me to Rubberneck. There's a lot more sort of straight ahead, straightforward, sort of alt rock grunge with fewer other influences. I also really like this one. I don't know if it's quite as good as Hell Below, Stars Above, but I thumbsed up every song except for I Want Your Love. The last, it's almost not even a song. It's just I Want Your Love over and over again for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind that, but like the other songs I actually specifically liked. There's a lot of the old style storytelling stuff, like Hell and High Water feels like the back half of the I Come From the Water. Like he's going back to the water and he wants to drag you down with him. No Deliverance is another great, like shouted just over and over again, shouted chorus. Yep. I really like So Long, Lovely Eyes. And this is where he is almost sounding like Chris Cornell on this album a couple of times. You're like, whoa, he can really pull it off. I mean, he's not quite Chris Cornell because nobody is, but more great vocals on this one. They're experimenting with, they've always done a little bit of weird time signature stuff, like on Possum Kingdom. It's with the 7/8/8/8 thing, or 4/4, whatever you want to call it. And they do some of that. There's a lot of 6/4 that starts popping up. Which is slightly off kilter, but not quite, 5/8 or whatever. I'm sure there's a lot of music theory nerds in our audience, so I just want to make sure they get a little bit of love. But yeah, I think this one's maybe a little step down, but it's also very, very good. Jamie, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's hard because I wanted to. Rubberneck had 30 odd years to, sit in my brain and let me think about things. So after I heard, or after I listened to Hell Below, Stars Above, I wanted to listen to that one again and again. And so as we get through here, I have listened to No Deliverance less than Hell Below and Stars Above. There are some that I really like on there. Song I Hate was one of them. And I do like I Am a Man of Stone. Nothing to Cry About is another kind of, I don't know, just.
I love the contempt in his voice.
Yeah.
In this song.
Yeah. So, I enjoyed this one too. It was kind of like when I'm deciding where to start, I think, I should start at the beginning, start at Hell Below, Stars Above. And so, I don't know, I feel like I listened to that one more than the next two, but I did enjoy this one as well.
I think it's funny, the songs you guys specifically called out, I'm a Man of Stone, Song I Hate, and Hell in High Water are the only 3 that I didn't have thumbs up. And it wasn't that I disliked them, because I think they're all, I don't think there's a bad song on this playlist. They just didn't quite catch me at the right moment where I, reached over to my phone and hit thumbs up. And maybe that'll come, with sitting with these for a few more times. I'll definitely have to go back and reevaluate them because it was the same thing with the last one, Jigsaw Girl. I didn't thumb up, and Motivational I didn't thumb up. And you guys mentioned both of those, so I think it's interesting. Maybe I just was so into the song that I forgot to thumbs up them. I don't know.
Well, I will say on Motivational, it wasn't one of my favorite songs on the album, but I just thought it was a very unconventional, a good example of it being weird and it working.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the one that takes a little more time to grow on you.
Yeah. So this was another not successful album as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I read 39,000 copies, which
does not seem like a lot.
No, and it's different now, of course, but
yeah, this was right in the transition.
Yeah, even so,
where album sales stopped happening and everything went digital.
Well, at one point, Lewis says that the Possum Kingdom is like the pay the rent thing.
Yeah,
like they keep getting royalties trickling in from that, and I think that allows them to have a career that's not very successful, on a national scale, because they do have that one big song that they're still playing on the radio that keeps the lights on.
Yeah. Up next, we've got 2 years later. They finally released the album Feeler. Now, Dan, I'm sure you probably read about this. This was originally meant to be released in the late 90s, which is why there was such a big gap between Possum Kingdom and Hell Below, Stars Above. I'm sorry, Rubberneck. But this album, just the record company wouldn't release it. Interscope wouldn't approve it for release, so they just kind of sat on it, and then finally were able to release it. And I don't remember the details.
Well, I did read a little bit about this morning, so I can fill it out a little bit. It sounds like Interscope Toadies succeeded despite Interscope. Like they didn't promote Rubberneck at all. Initially, they when asked about that, they claimed it was a marketing strategy, which no promotion's an interesting strategy because it's just not doing anything.
We're not going to tell anyone about you.
But Possum Kingdom hit, despite that, right? And then they didn't like Feeler, and to be fair, I like Feeler a lot less than the other albums we listened to, so I get it. And it sounds like it was a really kind of overproduced, like Pro Tools heavy, not organic sounding album. Now, we don't know that because Interscope did have a merger, like I mentioned, which nearly got the Toadies dropped, if not for a bit of luck here or there. But so I think they got lost in the shuffle for that reason, partly. But they also, they heard the album, said no, and they rejected it. We're not putting that out. And then, but they retained the rights. And then when the Toadies went back years later, they said, no, they're ours. Plus, we lost the masters anyway. So who knows what the original one sounded like? They totally re-recorded this one in like 2010.
Okay.
And they, some of the songs ended up on Hell Below, Stars Above. And I know Dollskin made it over. Maybe one or two others. A couple of things got dropped. And it's only 9 songs. And I would say this would have benefited from a couple of the songs that got. I mean, it makes sense. You take the strongest songs and reuse them, but this feels like I only gave a thumbs up to 4 of these songs, and I debated each one of these whether or not I should thumbs up. There were almost no. I think City Hate is the only one where I was like, yes, absolutely, that should be a thumbs up. The rest of them, and maybe Joey Let's Go. The rest of them, I was like, none of these are great, but they're all fine. And they're right in between that no thumbs up or thumbs up zone.
Right. Just kind of leave it.
These all sound, they almost all sound like filler album tracks that you'd hear on a decent album, but not a great album.
Right.
But I didn't dislike any of them. They were all just okay. That was my feel on this one. It was a real step down for me from the previous 3 albums. Dave, what? Go ahead and finish what you were saying before I commandeered the conversation.
No, that's pretty much where I was going with it. It doesn't feel like there was the passion of the writing of the songs in the songs. Like they were just re-recording them because they were songs they had written. They wanted to release them. I mean, that makes sense because they clearly had recorded them already 10 years, 12 years prior.
Yep.
And now they were, because Interscope sucks, because record companies suck.
Yeah, mostly.
They had to re-record it. There just feels like there's something more genuine about it, an album that's recorded for the first time, like
in the moment when
when you're writing and coming up
Yeah.
with these ideas and all that stuff, and that shows here. Now there are great songs. I liked Trust Game and Waterfall and City of Hate and Joey Let's Go. I had all those thumbs up, and I don't doubt that if I spent more time with it, there a few more will pop up. But I agree. It was a step down from the other three that are on this list. What did you think of this one, honey?
Well, in the car this morning, I told Dave that, I didn't feel like I knew this one as well as the others. And I definitely didn't listen to it as much, but I'm kind of realizing that I didn't want to put this on. If I was going to put on the Toadies, I was going to put on Hell Below, Stars Above, or Rubberneck, or, pick up where I left off in No Deliverance, the second or third time around. But yeah, it didn't make me really want to put on this album. There were some good ones and some lyrics and things that I remember like get stuck in my head. And that's kind of, if a song is stuck in my head and I'm kind of singing the lyrics again, that tells me that, it made a little impression on me. So there are a couple of those, but yeah, of the four that we have listened to and covered here, it's my least favorite.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like filler.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a little life missing, like you said, Dave, because they waited over a decade before re-recording it. So we will never know, because the first one is long gone. So like the original version, but I would say it's okay. And if you gave me all four albums and put it on shuffle, I wouldn't necessarily skip these songs, but contain very few songs where I'm like, yep. And even the best songs on here are not on the level of most of the first three albums, I would say.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree too. So 4 albums in, I don't know. I know, Jamie, you've listened to some of the next section, and I have as well. But based on these 4 albums, are you guys ride or die at this point?
At this point, well, I know there's more and more that I'm excited about. So I don't know. I can't answer that yet, but I will listen to any Toadies that comes out at this point.
How about you, Dan?
Yeah. That's a pretty good endorsement of ride or die. You're willing to give them a shot, when a new one comes out. I would say the trajectory is slightly downward now. You get sort of a mediocre album, and that isn't, we talked about this with Aerosmith. There's some duds, but that's going to happen. That doesn't mean you can't still be ride or die for a band, I don't think. So by strictest definition, no, I guess not, because I would not say that Feeler's exactly a good album. But I have heard nothing, not even the newer versions of old songs off of the 3 albums to come. And I am very excited, and I'm hoping that they bump back up into the strata of the first 3 albums. So I would say I am likely ride or die at this point. But if we get to a couple more albums like Feeler, I might have to be like, they were good until Feeler, It might be one of those front half career, back half career bands. So we'll see. What about you, Dave? Where are you at?
I am ride or die at this point. I will say this: I would put Feeler on before I put on Aerosmith's "Rock in a Hard Place."
I'll take Night in the Ruts over Feeler, but Feeler over Rock in a Hard Place. Agreed.
But yeah, it's definitely at this point. If I didn't know what was coming, spoiler alert, I would be concerned. I'd be like, that wasn't the best. Didn't hate it, but it wasn't the best. So, but yeah, I am ride or die at this point.
I'm really excited about the next stretch.
Yeah, it's really neat. I'm excited about it too. I honestly, this I can't believe that none of this was that there's this much good music from a band that I bought one album for based on one song,
Yeah.
like
And it's because of record label bungling, in my
Mhm.
opinion, that they lost their
Absolutely.
profile. They should have had singles out, I mean, whatever. You write the songs when you write them, and I think there was some talk of there was a bit of writer's block going on here or there, so you can't force them to come out with something sooner. But you don't have to like stop them from putting out an album, even if you don't love it.
Right.
3 years. The fact that it was like a 7-year wait between albums, they were completely off all of our radars, and we love them.
Mhm.
That just
Right.
goes to show they
Well,
really bungled it.
I think I read that the first album sold over 1 million
Mhm.
copies, and then the second one was like 60,000, something like that,
Right.
which is ridiculous.
God, that
Yeah.
album is way too good for that.
Yeah.
Way too good.
Yeah.
And Low Deliverance, 39,000. That's
Yeah.
That's
That's
like
nothing.
a local. That's like a strong local band.
Right.
It's like, come on, they have like an enduring rock hit, and these are on that level. It's just a real shame that they don't have any profile anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. All right. Well, unless you guys have anything else, I'm going to wrap this up.
Nope, not now.
Nope. We'll come back again and review the rest of their career. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in 2 weeks, we're going to do that. We'll look at the final 3 albums. Let me see if I can. Which are. Pause for editing timeout.
Play rock music.
Yeah. All right. Here we are. They're Play Rock Music, Heretics, and The Lower Side of Uptown. So if you want more content like this, you can find everything we've done at 64tacos.com. And if you really liked it, you can buy us a taco at buymeacoffee.com/64tacos. We'll see you in the next one.
I caught it on audio.